Welcome to A Place of Yes, a podcast about how I moved through my darkest hour. And for me, that was in channeling my grief into good. Welcome to the show. Welcome to A Place of Yes. This episode is a collection of brief interviews that I did on the annual Cantina Day. And for those who don't know, one day out of the year, close to the time that Jake passed away, a local restaurant in Saratoga Springs, Cantina, hosts like a fundraiser for us. And it has turned into just this beautiful day where Brian and I are surrounded by our family, our friends, the donors, Jake's families. Everyone comes together and has a meal, lunch, dinner, drinks, all of it. And this year, we had the Bright-Sided team on location, and I was able to do some short interviews. And we talked to previous guests. You'll hear from Melissa Allen. We talked to Jake's grandmother whose grandson passed away earlier in the year. We talked to one of my dearest friends who knew me as Jake's mom. And for those of you who listen, you know how special that is to me. You also hear from someone that I know through the work of A Place of Yes. She reached out to me and, we jokingly call her my number one fan, or the podcast number one fan. But it was so great to talk to her and to just hear the impact that sharing all of our stories has made on her. So I hope that you enjoy this episode. It's short, it's sweet, but it's got a lot of good content. You will be able to tell that we were live on location. We were at Cantina. It was bustling. You'll hear some background noise. You'll hear a little techno in the background, but it adds to it. And just know, if you watch the YouTube video, you will see us on location. I don't even know where to start with you. I want to say that you lit a candle for Jakey on the 8th. And the 8th, was it also National Bereaved Child Day or
Light a candle for
child that passed? So I used to know that date, and then I've lost track of that. And then when I saw your text that you had lit a candle for Liv and for Jake, it was kind of exactly what I needed, because I've talked about, it was 14 years. And it sucks. It sucks as much, like I shouldn't be telling you this. So hey, your future sucks. But it's still, not that it's still hard, it's just still like a day, right? It's still just a really, really sad day. And we tried to find joy in that day, and we found a bar called Everything's Jake that we went to, which was just awesome. But then I was like flipping through my phone, and I saw that picture posted, and then I saw it posted on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and thank you. You're welcome. I love that. And well, I think I've said this to you before. Well, I hate that our friendship has been so cemented by our loss. I'm also grateful for it.
Me too. Me too. I have to tell you, it's not the first candle I lit, but going in and lighting the candle for both of them was in the first time in almost 8.5 months where I felt a slight moment of peace. Like the church was wrapped around us, and there was something higher power. I actually left saying, I'm going to try to do this each week. I hope to do it. It was a feel-good moment. It was something actually which Sophia initiated. On Friday, she texted me, bye, I'm leaving from school. I'm going to church to light a candle for Liv. And I was just like, wow, are you going with someone? What is sparking this? And she said, no, I'm just going to because that's the only thing I know how to do. And I was just like, wow, if this 16-year-old can go and do this and carve out the time, make that. Absolutely.
It's funny that you say that, because in the beginning, we did do that. Like, we went to St. Clement's and we lit a candle, or any time we were like in any city or any place, like we stop at a church and light a candle. And we did it pretty religiously for a couple of years. And we have since become much less, like, you just don't really do it anymore. But I can remember, like you just said, that like feeling of peace, and Sophia's saying, and something you can do. I remember that feeling. So I feel like I'm going to try and bring it back into my rotation, because it is something that, it's so small, but it also feels like you're honoring, or you're giving them, or you're like, it's just like a symbol. We're sitting here with Sharon, who I wanted to come and talk to because I talk a lot about how there are people in my life who knew Jake, and there are people in my life who never knew Jake. Sometimes I feel like I'm overwhelmed with people who never knew him. They know what I do with Jake's Help from Heaven. They know the podcast. They know that I am the mom of a dead boy. They know all the things. But the people who knew me as Jake's mom, like really knew me, who were like in that life, it's like a free pass. You can never really do anything wrong. It's like a world that is just, I feel like it's smaller and smaller. So you are an OG. Like you have known Jake. And not only have you known Jake, but your daughter, Lila, for the longest time called herself like Jake's best friend. She always will have a place in my heart because, and you know the story I'm about to tell. Like, so you were pregnant maybe with Daniel, and she was like, can you bring me fillet of fish?
I literally just told this story over there.
So you tell it. Because I do a lot of talking. You tell it.
So one of the first times Heather came into my house, it's almost embarrassing this story, quite honestly. Ethan and Serena came over to come swim. I was 9 months pregnant with my son, Daniel. I had Daniel on August 18th. You guys probably came over on like August 9th, let's say. The kids were swimming. Well, first I said, Heather goes, can I bring anything over? Maybe the first time this woman's come to my house. And I'm like, well, actually, could you stop at McDonald's and bring me a fillet of fish? Like, who does that? Who asks a new friend to like stop and bring them food? But I thought I could myself one also. And you did. Yeah, you did.
I was like, I love fillet of fish.
And that was that. So then the kids are swimming. You were feeding Jake. Ethan decides, I can swim in the deep end too, just like everybody else.
Couldn't, by the way.
So Ethan goes and starts to swim in the deep end with his sister and my kids. Ethan couldn't swim in the deep end. I jump in 9 months pregnant, fully clothed, and grab Ethan because she had Jake on her, like on my neck, feeding Jake. So that was when we pretty much bonded. And with her bringing me a fillet of fish and me jumping in 9 months pregnant.
And basically saving my kid's life.
Saving Ethan.
But then later we were inside. I think this is the same day.
Okay.
We were inside. Jake was in his stroller, like napping or whatever. And Lila had come home, like had gotten dropped off from cheerleading camp. I might be blending days.
Yeah.
But she got dropped off from cheerleading camp. And she was so obsessed with Jake. Like, because they were the same age. They would have been the same year. And she, for whatever reason, did not see, severely disabled, like couldn't walk, couldn't talk, super sick, like medicated, didn't give her a ton, but she, for whatever reason, locked in on him and believed that they were friends, I think. Believed that they were buddies. And she was like, Jake, I went to, cheer camp, and these are the cheers I learned. And she just cheered, in front of him. And if he was, dozing off, she'd be like, wake up, watch me cheer. And I was like, oh my God, this is so special because he doesn't have that. He's always just the kid who's like, what's wrong with him? Or on my lap or preventing me from being able to do anything. And she just treated him like a normal kid and always did.
Yeah.
I don't know. And she just always, after he died,
she was crushed, little, and she was crushed. She would tell people my best friend died. And I remember, and this comes up on my time hop every year, she was in first grade, maybe second grade, and they said, if you had $100, what would you do with the $100? And she drew a whole picture, and she said, I would give it to Jake's Help from Heaven.
But she'd have her lemonade stands, and she'd come over and give me $8.37, that she would this random amount from her lemonade stands at a young age.
And she didn't know Jake that long, but she really had his connection with him. I just feel blessed and honored that I did get to know him, that I did get to meet him, and he was this adorable little boy. I remember being at Ethan's birthday party. We went to go see the Tooth Fairy with the ride.
Oh my God.
And I remember Brian feeding him. Yeah, feeding Jake at the mall. Yeah, we were in the food court, here's your cake, Ethan, It's hard to navigate when your friend loses somebody, let alone their child. And I tried to be as normal as possible. You don't want to, there's a fine line, and I'm sure sometimes I didn't do a great job, but I tried, and I wanted to maybe make you smile here and there. And that's all I would be able to do, if that was even possible at that time.
And you have always been, I would say out of most of the years, you have been an all-day trooper at this day.
Well, we also had to celebrate the generosity of this community that would come out and help Jake's Help from Heaven.
So, Debbie, when did we meet? We met 2015. Okay, so my goodness, almost 10 years ago. There are some deliveries that just stand out in my head. That one I can remember. I can remember what Travis was wearing. I think he had a light blue shirt on. We brought or at least he did in my head.
Yeah, I think he wore a blue sweater with a button down shirt.
Yes, he would look so
I loved
handsome.
dressing him up.
He looked so handsome, and you were so welcoming. It just was one of those deliveries that for both Brian and I was just 100% feel good.
I have pictures on my phone of Brian and your son
Ethan, I was just telling you,
running down our walkway because we were in the country.
the three of us went. It was like, I was like, Ethan, we're doing a delivery, and that was when he was younger. So Travis passed away New Year's Day this year. You know, I never have the right words, even though I feel like I talk about it on the podcast all the time, but like I kind of feel like there's no words, right? Like, because it just sucks.
Albany Med had a picnic memorial in the summer.
Okay.
For any children that were in Albany Med that passed away.
Oh, really?
And so
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah. It was a pretty good crowd. It was outside at a park in Gilderland.
Okay.
And I thought going up there, it was, I'm going to honor my boy. And we took his picture and everything. And all I did was cry the whole time I was there. And I kept doing one of these, kept my sunglasses.
The sunglasses. I always feel sunglasses are key.
Anyway, I got to see his doctor from Albany Med there. We just loved her. She was honest, she was straightforward, but so caring. I got together with her once after Travi passed. I'm like, can we meet for coffee or something? I just felt like I needed
that connection.
Yeah. So we did that, and I got to see her that day. I also had inquired about volunteering at the Ronald McDonald House Family Room. Yeah, we used that room, and I remember the comfort of just having a little quiet and privacy.
And a place to go.
Yes.
Yep.
I filled out the application. I got a remark back, but she wanted to talk to me more in January, February.
Okay.
They don't want to do it unless it's been a
full year.
And I get that. And I told her, I understand.
Well, hopefully that will.
Yeah, I need to do something.
No.
I want to give back like you, but I'm 67 and I'm just tired.
Well, we have a very specific skill set, right? And you want to use that skill set to help others, right? We will definitely keep you in mind at Jake's. We don't really do events or anything anymore, but we're always looking for people who can help with deliveries or stuff like that. So I'm so grateful that you came here today. We got to connect because we're always like chatting on like social media or whatever, and I so appreciate that. But I'm just so happy that we could just connect face to face.
Me too.
I'm sitting here with Jess Quigley. You are someone who I've gotten to know truly through the work of like Jake's Helper Pet.
Absolutely.
And I love that because I feel like that it's like a different kind of connection, right? Like I always talk on the show a lot about like the different people in my lives, right? Like there's the people who know me as like Jake's mom, the people who know me as like Ethan's mom, people who knew me as both, and then this whole other world that I've been in of people who know me, and I love all of it.
Yeah. Well, now you know me as your number one fan on podcasts.
Which I love so much because you would reach out to me and be like, hey, so I just want to tell you, like, I really love this. And I feel like one of the first ones, and I think I read it on like the fan you did, like it was a fan feedback or whatever we called it. And I was like, never feel bad for like enjoying it. Like, that's why we do it. And I love it so much. And so basically, like, you listen to a lot of the stuff, and I love, like, you're a teacher, you use some of the episodes, you use, like, the Sean and Seamus in your classroom, which is a former educator. I'm like, what better, like, thank you, right? Like, what better, like, I was like, oh my God, I love this.
That was so inspiring, though. I feel every episode I'm able to take something away from about living, which always sounds odd because it's a grief podcast. Like, whenever I share with friends, like, you should listen to this. It's so good. Oh, well, what is it? Well, it's a grief podcast. Like, and you're like, great, though, But, my takeaway is that I always learn something about life and about living and things that I want to teach my girls about life and living, things that I can take to the classroom and teach my kids there.
Well, and I love that because so many people, even people today, are like, oh, I don't listen to every episode because it's a grief podcast and I don't want to be sad. And I'm like, but I don't really feel like, and I know my perspective can be sometimes a little skewed because I like live in this world that is, it is filled with sadness. But it's also my whole thing where like, you can be really sad
and still experience great joy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, both things are very true and they can coexist. Life is hard, and maybe it's not as hard as like, oh my God, your child died, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And like, and I do feel like we try to not make it as heavy. So I love when you're like, oh, I learned something from every time, or it's about living, because that's what I think it really is.
It is. And one thing I love that you do, like you just said, is like the way that you talk to people. I feel like I'm just sitting in a room having a conversation, or at least I want to be sitting in a room having a conversation with you and your guest, because you always find a way to make it fun. There's like ups and downs. I cry, I laugh, I talk to myself, I talk back to you. So yeah, it's all around just amazing.
Well, I'm so grateful that you listen and that you share it and that you do all of the things. The things you're saying are exactly what I want the audience to feel, right? Like, I don't want people to get hung up on that it's a grief podcast, or that it's like, oh, her son died, or that it's nonstop sad conversations. Because I don't know, like, our tagline for season 2 is hard conversations that make you laugh.
Yeah. On the grief aspect too, as much as I learn about life, I have taken so much away from the conversations you have with people about grieving, and, appropriate things to do, and things that drive you crazy when people do that people do. And so that's been super helpful too. I think one of the main things that I've taken away, and I love that you talk about, is that that hierarchy of grief, and how it's, not really existing.
Yep.
And that is something that helps me more than anything I had gotten out of therapy. I think I told you that. Like, I had that aha moment of like, oh, it's okay to feel this way about X, Y, or Z.
When you love big, it doesn't matter what it is. You lose big too. I just wanted you to know how much your feedback and your listening, and I swear I woke up this morning and you were like, I downloaded so I can listen on the way to school. I was like, oh my God, like, it made my day. I was like, at least one person's going to listen to this, because I have not done a great job of promoting it. So I'm not even sure that my husband has listened to it yet. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to A Place of Yes. Please follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you really like this episode, please share it with a friend. It would make a world of difference if we could just reach more people and share the work that we do and the stories we want to tell. Thank you so much for watching.